Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. And we're laying against our pillows right now this morning. How you doing, babe?
Let me tell you, this is the day I sleep in because I have a late night tonight, and you have been up for several hours.
I got up at 5:30.
You were so squirrely.
I was.
I'm tired. I am tired,
Yeah.
but I'm good. How are you doing
I'm
this
doing
morning?
good. I'm feeling good. Yeah, sometimes I wake up and I just feel energy or something. So I was kind of like poking away at you, just kind of waking you up and saying, "Hey, what you doing? What you
Well,
doing?"
this is what I think. Like, I read the book about, remember the book about health, and they talked about how sleep is so important.
Mm-hmm.
One thing he said was that y- be careful with the naps you take during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And just take power naps. Don't sleep for several hours during the day
Mm.
because then you won't be able to sleep at night. And I think this is what's going on with you. Your body's all still turned around from Egypt, I think.
Well, I read that book, and I didn't read that book.
You
Sorry,
didn't
I
read it.
didn't
You
read.
read it vicariously through me
Right,
though.
I did not read that book, but and I do like my naps. Actually, though, I want to ask everybody: can y'all hear us? Give us a quick yes if you can hear us. Sometimes we come in and the audio's not what it needs to be, so give me a quick yes to let us know you can hear us. Good morning, Tony Brown, Norman Henderson, El Hodge, Mark Dwayne, Jill Washington, Andrea, Denise Terrell. Good to see you. Tara Redmond. I see Jashawn Blackman, Melanated Rich Combo. Good morning. Let us know. Give us. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the yeses. Let us know what city you're coming from. Also, Robin. I saw Robin. My mama's name is Robin. Speaking of Robin and Larry, my parents, they're having their 50th wedding anniversary next month.
50 years. Isn't that
50
great?
years, 50 years.
Yeah.
Like this upcoming month,
In October, right?
October 19th. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And I love that. Shout out to everybody who believes in Black love and the power of Black family. I think we lost a lot as a community when we started to celebrate broken degenerate culture and forgot about the things that made us strong and powerful, helped us get through slavery. So anyway, good Muhammad out of Houston, Nancy Westmoreland out of Chattanooga. Let's get to the topic of today. Diddy, I know this topic with Diddy has been talked into the ground. So the goal.
Oh, boys, we just getting started.
I know. Well, if there, it's oh my gosh, and if there's a trial, I mean, can you imagine how
Oh,
many?
come on.
Right, right. But here's the thing. Okay, so I don't want to have a typical like did he do it conversation, right? Did he do it or did he not do it? I don't really want to even. That's not interesting to me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Oh, I'm all into it. Diddy is like, okay, first of all, it's my entire culture. Like
no,
it's everything. It's
no.
no, can I let me explain
Okay, go ahead.
before you jump in?
Mhm.
That whole era, the music, the videos, all of that, that whole era is so deeply connected to everything I like. Remember we were in New York? What did we do for hours and hours in New York? We listened to Puff Daddy's music.
I don't. I know. I didn't like much of. Well, okay.
We
Let me.
listened to this is at the
Yeah.
height of the 90s. Like I was into it. I'm sorry. I didn't know that's what he was doing on the other side of it, but I love that song. I loved his music. I'm just
Okay.
not gonna lie. I was in my 20s
Right.
and that was it. It's so closely tied to just connected to me and what I listened to and what I groove to. I'm not gonna lie. Like I loved it. I loved the music.
I get that part, right? But
Yeah.
that's not your culture.
Well,
That's not
what
that
I'm
was.
saying
Let me
is
just
it's
say this. That
ingrained in my memories.
right there we go. It's part of your memory. It's
Yeah.
yeah. I see it as. I think I got triggered when you said it's part of that was my whole culture because there are a lot of Black people where hip hop is their whole culture and they, put crazy stuff on BET and they say, this is your culture. This is the culture. This is the culture. And here's the thing.
Yeah, but we
Wait,
listen
here's the
to the
thing.
music.
Let me finish this.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Diddy watching none of this surprises me at all. The only thing that surprises me is that it took 30 years for people to realize that what was happening in hip hop was not healthy.
Okay, so okay, okay, what was happening in hip hop was not healthy. But I watched Making the Band. Like I did not miss an episode of Making the Band. Yeah, I did observe some strange behaviors from him. Just even the novice 20-year-old something that I was back then. I was like, why has he got this little dog there? What is with this guy and this umbrella, Farnsworth, or whatever his name is? I just remember there were some weird things that was happening, but I was into it. I watched the TV shows. Watched the music videos. I danced to the music in the clubs. And, it wasn't always like, when I think back on it, it wasn't always a negative thing for me.
Hmm.
It was always like connected. For me, it was connected to fun. And I was having fun in my 20s. In Chicago, I lived in Chicago in my 20s. It was the best time in my life.
Hmm.
And he was part of that. His music and all of that was part of it. So I have to give some acknowledgement to that kind of thing. For
Okay,
me, and because it's our age group.
right. Okay, that part I get, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing for me. None of this surprises me because I follow hip hop very closely. I'm a black male. I'm the same age as Diddy, pretty much. So I've been following him and Biggie, and I remember Pac
Yeah.
and Ice Cube, who's now a friend of mine, and also the Dr. Dre's and the Snoops and everything else. And even as a peer, I remember feeling like this is not gonna make black people better. I remember feeling, for me, my experience was, yeah, the music was great, sure. We black people always been able to entertain white folks, and I mean that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So you're into that.
We've always mastered the singing, dancing, and all that. But I remember kind of feeling a little bit of annoyance by the fact that it seemed that as a black man that there was a part of the culture that did not want us to grow up. Like, okay, we're 25. It's like, yeah, you're wilding out, you're being a fool, whatever.
Wait,
But
wait, wait. I
but
wasn't being a fool
no, no,
though.
no, no, no. I'm
Oh,
not saying
okay.
being a fool like getting locked up in them. I'm saying like you're
Oh.
maybe you're getting out there, you're hanging with the ladies, you're doing your thing, but then you become 35. And I remember thinking these guys are still doing the same stuff at 35 that we did at 25. Then you hold
Mm-hmm.
on, then you become 45, and you're like, damn, y'all doing the same stuff at 45 that we did at 25 and 35. So I think that what bothered me most as a black man with hip hop was all the stuff that Diddy is now finally being accused of, that they're now kind of holding him accountable for. I'm gonna ask everybody in here, give me a yes if you knew hip hop was already full of degenerate behavior. Give me a yes if you were aware of the fact that hip hop has always been, for 30 years, has been disrespectful to women, harmful to women, encouraging predatory behavior toward women. Give me a yes if you understood hip hop was always full of like very childish, irresponsible choices that were incentivized by money, incentivized by white supremacist record labels that pretty much own these rappers, and incentivized by the very same people who mentored Diddy to become the degenerate monster that he is today. I think that's the part that where I'm kind of like, yeah, it was fun, but even then I was like, when I heard DMX when he was on tour, I got to know Dame Dash real well, and I visited Dame's house several times, and he never ever did weird stuff like that. We talked about Diddy, and Dame actually had a moral standard where he talked about being around Diddy and feeling like there was something very dark going on in that space. He didn't say specifically, but he really kind of had a strong reaction to it. But so I'm not going to indict the entire culture, but what I will say though is it felt to me like something was just wrong. Like I remember just thinking. So let me talk about DMX. So DMX was on tour with Dame and Jay Z and all those guys, right? And we were about 28, 29 years old. And I remember DMX. They asked him. They said, "So what do you do while you're on tour?" And he said, "None. Smoke all day, fuck all night." And that's all. That's what he said. He said all he did all day was get high and have sex. And I remember even at 28, 29, I remember thinking, you're going to be dead by the time we're 40. Like, how are you gonna how does a man live? The men I knew did not live that way, and I think that's the part that always got to me.
I want to say that hip hop for me really took a turn. Um, in observing a lot of it, it really took a turn. I think after Biggie died or was killed. After he died, I think it just went from fun to not so fun. I just remember like there's something I will say there's something changed in hip hop in that moment.
Mm.
Like it'd be interesting to like do, people do content analysis of hip hop. That's why I like NPR and stations like that, PBS stations. They would do content analysis of hip hop music, and they will say there was one seminal moment, like one very important moment where the music, not all the music, because we can't. I mean, hip hop is not, it's not heterogeneous.
You mean it's
It's
not homogeneous?
homogeneous, right? It's not homogeneous, right? It's not all the same. So there was all different styles. It was like gangster rap, and then there was like this fun loving rap. It was all, it was then it was the black consciousness rap. Like so it was so, I'm thinking KRS-One. Like there were so many different types of hip hop music that you can just kind of vibe to. And the music, and then you have the person. Right. We always talk about like the person in their personal lives. I was not interested in who these people were as individuals. Um, at some point, I was like having fun, graduating from college, going to parties. I went to parties. I had a nice full life, and so it's very multidimensional, just like people, very complex. Right.
I do agree. And by the way, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And Pillow Talk is where we get together and try to have intelligent, fun conversations about things happening in the Black community. If you'd like to get a free copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking, we're also into love and money. My wife is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. I'm a professor of finance. That's what my doctorate's in. So if you'd like to get a free copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking, you can visit boyceandalicia.com. And also, you can learn more about what Dr. Alicia does by visiting coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. If you could hit the thumbs up button, I'd appreciate it, guys. As you guys know, it's hard to get intelligent Black content out there. So if y'all can share this and hit the subscribe button, that really helps. All right, so I do hear that, right, and it was entertainment, and you're right. Hip hop did take a turn.
We
For the,
listened to, remember Money Cash Hoes, Money Cash Hoes.
what?
What? Come on, we listened to that song.
Keep
That
your
song was
legs
like,
in my dog's
come
bite.
on, we
Jiggle,
listened to
my
that
jiggle,
song.
rap all night. Jiggle. Yeah, I
We
mean,
listened to that song on complete rotation. We
that's
were
so
like,
true.
play
Oh
that
yeah,
song again. Come
that
on.
that was that trip to New York we took in 1998. Was it? I think
It was either
99.
99 or
I think it
98.
was. I feel like it was 99.
Let me tell you, it was the 90s. And at that time, Bad Boy Records, oh,
We
it
ain't
was like
going
the
nowhere.
top. Come
You
on.
can't stop it.
Come
Bad boys
on.
for life. Well, okay. So here was my assessment, right? As a young Black man who is now not a young Black man anymore, right? I wanted to be a grown man, and I'm glad to be that. Um, I remember hip hop changing more so early '90s. Really,
Yeah.
really when NWA came out, they kind of shifted everything, and I think it's because you had these crazy social policies in the '80s that led to the crack epidemic, the rise of gangs, Crips and Bloods, CIA dropping crack cocaine in Black communities, and all that. So NWA kind of comes out of the mud with all that, and they kind of share their culture with the rest of the world. Like Ice Cube, his song like "Dope Man," where he's like educating people on gang culture. He's like,
Hmm.
Strawberry, Strawberry is the neighborhood hoe. Do anything for a hit or two. Get
Yeah.
up like a rock ship, like your whole damn crew. You know, and it's like, and it was kind of like interesting because at that point, I think that those who really just wanted the music to be fun were getting pushed to the side. Like that was pretty much the end of DJ
Hmm.
Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. They were
Yeah.
they were seen almost like clownish, And
Well,
then,
they were reflecting things that was a real life situation for many people. Like
mm,
they were describing what they were seeing in such a, I think, such a great way that everybody really connected to it. And they were also talking about police brutality, which was another thing that was happening that a lot of people were not really paying attention to. Because there was no recordings of it. Remember,
Rodney King.
Rodney King was the very first recording of all of the things that Black people we had been talking about for a very long time, and no one really paid attention until Rodney King, the actual recording.
Yeah, I thought
Hmm.
F the Police was definitely powerful, right? I
Hmm.
think that, and also remember too, it's interesting when you consider how drugs were involved, like in the stuff with Diddy. There in the beginning, even NWA, when they talked about drugs, they didn't talk about drugs as something that you wanted to take or that you wanted to be a drug addict. Like there was nothing.
Yeah,
I still
they didn't
specifically.
glorify it so much.
Right. I
Do you think?
specifically remember Ice Cube saying, "If you smoke cane, you a stupid blanca blanca." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
remember that verse, and it's like for some reason somebody was like, "No, no, no, start telling black people that drugs are good." And I find that really weird.
A shift in it. Well, it's a shift in it where the only thing they talk about is getting money, having a fun little time in the bedroom or wherever. That was it. Getting money, having fun time, and violence.
Yeah.
Those were the three. I mean, that can't be any more. We're gonna talk about low vibration. Everybody's talking about low vibration, but those are the three lowest chakras.
Okay.
Safety. Yeah, your root chakra is about safety, right? And so that's, safety. Your next chakra going up, that's all about sex. It's about,
Mm.
and then it's all about power, money, and all of that. So those are just three lower chakras. We weren't talking about LL Cool J was done. I need love. He was all into the heart chakras and stuff.
When am I
We got
lonely
rid of
alone
that. We
in
got
my
rid of
room?
that.
Sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my
Keep
mind, I
it
hear my
low.
conscience call,
Yeah.
telling me I need a girl who's as sweet as a dove. Yeah,
This is the first time in my life. And not only that, in LL Cool J's video, he had a dark skinned Black woman as
mm,
his object of desire. Hello, we need more of those images. And
right.
so LL Cool J was like, that's beauty, but, you know, done with that. Only thing we only promoting, and it's interesting because there's a lot going on with the music. I think the entire music industry right now is in a crisis. This is huge.
Well, there were a lot of executives that started resigning once the Diddy indictment was
It
released.
makes you wonder, right?
Several, yeah, many of them did, and I've always said that it's really not so much about just getting upset with the rappers. I think that they have some accountability, but you got to look at the people that are paying the rappers. You got to look at the money. Where's the money coming from?
Oh,
Who's financing this cultural destruction? And I feel like Diddy, his indictment kind of represents, in the end of an era. It represents kind of chickens coming home to roost. And here's the thing: it's gonna spill over. Diddy. Diddy wasn't just a celebrity. Diddy was a hub. He's
he
a
was a hub.
yeah.
And let me tell you, it's got to be more names than just one. We cannot pin all of this catastrophe on one person. That is not fair.
What
It is a network of people, and I think all of them should be exposed. Every single one of them that was involved in this sinister business. It was a network. It was connections. One person can't do it all alone. He needs to go down, and everybody else with him. All
well
the other people connected to this.
and I do agree. I do agree. Accountability is called for. But what's interesting is I find it fascinating trying to discern between who they choose to hold accountable and who they choose not to hold accountable. And I remember thinking about this even with the R. Kelly thing. I remember
Yeah.
when R. Kelly was kind of, they did the same thing to him that they're doing with Diddy right now. I remember thinking, but he had a lot of friends. He had friends that would come to his house and things would happen there. He was friends with the Jay Z's and the Michael Jordans and the people like that because it was Chicago. Back in Chicago, I mean, a lot of those people hung
Oh,
out.
he had parties at his house.
Right, right. So
Mhm.
like so the same thing with Diddy, and you go into his connections with so many people. And when I say he's a hub, I mean very few celebrities are hubs. He's a hub, Oprah's a hub. what's it a guy like a Russell Simmons is a hub. Al Sharpton would be a hub. Not to say all these people are doing bad things. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, or yeah, I mean, you can make come up with whatever you want on that. But I'm saying that these hubs are people where they just know everybody. Where there was a time just 5 years ago, everybody was clamoring to hang out with Diddy. I mean, there's image. Remember, do y'all remember when he was telling everybody who to vote for? He was
Well, he
literally.
didn't say who to vote for.
Oh no, he
He
said.
was
Oh,
saying,
he
you
was
know,
down with
vote
the.
or die,
He
right?
was deeply connected with the Democratic
Oh,
Party.
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's pictures of him with Barack Obama. He probably had the Obamas on speed dial.
Oh, he was pictured with Donald Trump. I mean, he's pictured with
Hmm.
everybody. I mean,
Right.
we could garnish lots and lots and lots of pictures of him with all sorts of celebrities. Boy, did they know
Well,
it's not aging well.
it's interesting because
Or did they know? Did they know?
I don't know if they could have known, right? I mean, and then that gets to another point I want to ask you about as a mental health professional. Diddy seems like a guy who's pretty extreme, right? Like you have the whole story about the 1,000 bottles of baby oil, right? Did y'all hear about that?
Oh
Let me know if
gosh.
y'all heard about that, where he had the 1,000 bottles of baby oil and all the toys and everything else. And I kind of feel like that made me think about things from a mental health perspective.
What you think about?
What do I think about what?
What did you say? You thought about it in terms of mental health. What did you think
Oh,
about?
well, what I thought about was I said, what do you say about a person who's I think about things like dopamine levels and your dopamine transmitters just being flooded because you've had so many drugs and you kind of had every type of thrill a person can have, and you run almost like a drug addict where they had their first high, then they had their 10,000th high, and next thing you know, they're injecting the cocaine into the tips of their toes, or taking putting heroin in their eyeball or something. Just you know what I mean? Like where they're so desperate for the high that they go to these extreme lengths. Like it takes something really extreme to have the same effect,
So
right?
you're equating this interesting scenario to what was happening with that lifestyle, like being like what are you saying? I'm
I'm
just
saying
curious.
he's an addict. He's a,
Hold on, you
I
see
I
him as an
wonder I
addict.
wonder if he what he's addicted to. I don't even think it's a if. I think because think about when he got arrested, he had drugs with him when he got arrested. He was obsessed with the freak
Well,
offs.
now wait a minute. Those drugs were used to drug the victims.
No, some of the drugs he was taking too.
Oh, did they do
Oh,
did they
yeah.
do
I mean, well,
a drug test on him? Do you know?
my assumption is that if you are spending that much time drugging that many other people, there's a high probability you probably took drugs yourself. I don't
Oh,
think
well, we're
there's
speculating. I mean, I don't know unless they did a drug test on him and
if you're in possession of drugs, I'm assuming that you're planning to use them. I mean, sure,
oh,
sometimes maybe you're going to drug other people,
okay.
but I think there's a high probability. And again, it is speculation, but Diddy, you know, my point is to say that I think sex and drugs, there's an overlap. Like the only times I've seen black men get taken down is usually due to four vices. One of four vices: sex, drugs, alcohol, or gambling. Those are the four
Sex,
vices
drugs, alcohol,
that
gambling.
tend to define, in my experience, 90% or more of the times where black men have been taken down.
Well, I mean, it's to excess, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a fun time in the bedroom, but what happens when you do it against somebody's will and you start to be aggressive about it? Yeah, that's the problem,
Right, or
right?
when you have freak offs that last for 5 days in a row. Like
Exactly.
that to me is
It's
extreme.
not necessarily because I think we're talking about this so much through what was happening with Puff and Sean. I'll call him Sean. We're talking about it. What's going on with him? Every time I think about this scenario, I think about the victims. I think
Mhm.
about the people who, where he has used his power and influence. You think, oh, wow, is this famous person or whatever it is? And you get connected into this network. I'm more interested in the 300 witnesses and the victims, hopefully, that came forward who survived this type of torture. I mean, the descriptions that I've heard so far about what they experienced, the sinisterness behind this, the evil behind somebody wanting to do that and not caring at all about the pain and the suffering that those people went through.
Hmm.
that he tortured.
Would you
Like
say there's a chance that there's like some narcissism possibly,
that
or?
is, listen, it is, it ain't even in the realm of just diagnosing it. It is criminal behavior to have total 100% disregard for women and men. I'm not even, I guarantee you this, men and women who are victims of this.
Right.
Like that's the part that I really feel like not enough people are talking about, is the fact that there are hurt individuals who will be living the rest of their lives trying to sort through what the heck happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
Sex trafficking, human trafficking is such a big problem, especially among the elites.
Right. Okay.
And
So
yeah,
here's what um I hear everything you're saying for sure.
yeah.
I I don't see it so much as just the word victim to be used here. I see participants, and some of the participants were victims.
What are you talking about?
Wait, here's what I
Participants
here's
means you
no
have
no
permission.
right right
They
right
don't have permit.
right. No. Listen. I see thousands of participants in various activities with Diddy. Barack Obama's a participant. He probably went to one of Diddy's gatherings. That does not mean that Barack, in any level, was involved in anything sexual or anything that involved predatory behavior.
Mhm.
But Diddy has a life with thousands of participants in that life and lifestyle. When he would have his big white parties, hundreds of celebrities would come to those parties, right? So you've got a lot of participants, and you cannot assume that every participant was a victim. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm
I'm
not
saying
talking.
right,
I'm talking about the victims.
right,
Again,
right,
we're moving the conversation into who these other people are. I'm talking about the individuals who were hurt,
right,
deeply wounded.
right. And
That
here's the debate. Here's the debate that the black community is having, because I've been talking to the hundreds of people about this.
the black community is saying what?
Yeah. Well, here's what the debate is. Because I've done several podcasts with different people with different perspectives, and what
Yes.
they're saying is they're saying not everybody who goes to a freak off is a victim. That's what they're saying. They're saying
Okay.
not everybody who took drugs was drugged. Some people wanted drugs. Some people chose drugs, right? And what tends to happen, and this does not, I'm not defending, I can't
I
defend
don't
it.
understand what you
What I'm
mean.
saying is that if you are accused of drugging a drug addict, how do you prove somebody drugged a drug addict? I'm not saying all of the people were drug addicts. I'm saying if a drug addict comes up and says he drugged me, and you say, but you take drugs all the time, and they say, yeah, but that one time I didn't want to take the drugs.
It wasn't about drug boys. It was about drugging somebody. It was about taking advantage of their lifeless body
Right?
without their consent. It's
Do you
about
know all these? I mean,
kidnapping.
do you?
Hold on.
But do you have proof of these things? I'm
I'm
not
just
saying.
talking about what the man got on television and he said, we
Right,
have video
right.
recordings of the victims, their lifeless body. They were beaten. They were I'm just to me it was reminiscent of his description of the Cassie video
Hmm.
of him dragging him by the hair. I mean, he was very descriptive in what they saw those people do. They did not, no one gave permission for somebody to come. Yeah, drag me by my hair. You have permission to do that. You have permission to take advantage of my body like that. I don't think those people were doing that. I'm talking about actual victims.
Right.
And I think that in our culture, we need to get away from victim blaming.
But
Nothing bother what you want to say?
victim blaming, I agree, but we also got to get away from the culture of assuming that everybody who says they're a victim can never ever be telling a lie.
Okay, listen. It's too much of this victim blaming attitude that happens.
What?
That
How do you define victim blaming? Do you think anybody who asks the victim a question or for clarification is victim blaming?
This is not what I'm saying. I'm saying the I'm talking about actual are you trying to tell me that you're going to sit and blame people for being wrapped up into a
Mm,
human trafficking situation against their will? They want to
no,
go home. I want to go
no,
home. I want to be safe. I
no.
don't
I'm not blaming. If somebody asks you a question and says, "Where's your proof?" That is not victim blaming.
Okay, that's not, listen,
That's a-
we're here having a conversation
right,
about how this happened for many years. How
right.
is it that these victims, these actual people who say I was violated against my will. I did not deserve that. Nobody deserves that. We're sitting here saying, how did this happen for many years? And it happens because everybody blames the victim. Well, what were you doing sitting in there? And when people ask questions like that, well, what were you doing? And what were you doing? Trying to blame them for it, just insinuating. This is why people don't come forward. This is why people have so much shame and they feel like they are to blame for what happened to them. They walk away from that having been traumatized by somebody drugging them and taking advantage of them against their will and hitting them and dragging them by the hair. By the way, that is illegal and it should be illegal. But it's
What
those
if Cassie?
questions and
I
those
okay,
questions and those it's
okay.
situations. Hold on, I'm not done. There's situations and stuff that happen to them and people talk to them, and I have seen it so much with us. We do it to ourselves. We look at the victim, the person that was actually injured and hurt, and then we turn it around. We don't look at the person, the perpetrator who did
People
this.
are calling bullshit in the chat,
I
by the
don't
way.
give a fuck what people are saying in the chat. I am a social worker. I am a therapist. I have talked to people
You
who
said
were actually
okay.
surviving
You sound like you're taking. I
situations.
do get that, right, and I understand that. I fully appreciate and respect your and I don't think you should say I don't give a fuck
Well,
because
I'm sorry,
that,
but
but
we
that
need to
but
stand up. We need to
listen.
stand up.
I agree, but you got to also stand up for the fact that there have been thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands
It's
and hold on, hold on,
unusual.
wait. There's been thousands and thousands of cases where people have been falsely accused.
Not
And it's not,
no.
yeah, no, no, no,
Let me just
there
say
have been, no, no, let me explain. Let me tell you. I had a best friend where there was clear
this is a
evidence.
one-off
Listen, no, no, no,
instance,
no, no.
Boyce.
It was a one off, but there's studies that show that this does happen.
No,
You go back in Black history.
I will.
I'm not, now here's the thing. Now you got me in the,
Lord Jesus,
no,
let me tell
now you
you,
got me. Hold on, wait. You did a whole lot of talking, and
I
it's my,
didn't
woman, it's my
finish.
turn to talk. It's
It's
my turn
not.
to talk. So let me tell you, I can
That's
say,
not true,
no.
though.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I want to make it clear. I am not here to defend Diddy. I told y'all. I've
It
always
sounds
thought.
like it.
I've talked about hip hop as a degenerate culture. Why do you think D1 and I are buddies now? D1 and I are the best of friends because D1 and I linked around the idea that we have an issue with the fact that hip hop has made the black man look like a sexual degenerate, a loser, a man who doesn't even care about his own kids. So don't put me in that category defending Diddy. I'm not here to do that. I'm here for fairness. I'm here for truth. Now, truth means that look, there's clearly some victims here, most likely. The Southern District of New York does not bring a case to you unless they've done their homework. So they probably have a ton of evidence on him. He's gonna get his butt kicked in court for sure. But this idea that every single person who comes in and says, I was a victim, give me $10 million too.
This,
That no, I'm sorry. That's when you talk about money, and
Boyce,
you got to look at the types of people that are.
this is why
But
this is why people don't come forward and say anything.
no,
This is what I want to say.
if you're a
Like,
victim, come
how
forward.
the thing victims don't come forward
Why?
because they blame themselves and they shouldn't.
They
There have
shouldn't.
been so many. Let me tell you, I have worked with children who have survivors of sexual
It sounds like you're
abuse.
taking this personally.
No, I'm not taking it personally. I want to be a voice of advocacy for the voiceless.
Okay.
There's so many individuals, and I who are adult survivors of all sorts of heinous things that have happened to them as children. And as children and as young adults, whatever, they think that they are to blame because when they actually open their mouth to speak, you'd be so surprised how adults who's supposed to be protecting them don't believe them.
And
And they're harmed by and they don't believe them. They don't step in to protect them.
okay, I'd like to talk a little bit too, if that's
You
okay.
ask me a question, why don't they say that's
Okay.
why? They think, oh, what's
Okay.
wrong with me?
All right. So
But a criminal thing
Cheryl Brown says
happened.
I have a picture with Sean in '97, and I can sue with no facts. And that's what I'm
She
talking. That's
can't.
what. Yes, she can. She
It's
can.
a court of
If
law.
she,
You have
there,
to
no,
be.
but that's the thing, right? Okay, okay. So it sounds
I
like
want to say, but I want to
it
say
sounds like we might
something.
agree though that maybe there just has to be a standard. I'm not saying that victims shouldn't be
Most
compensated, or I'm saying
most people who are victims of stuff like that, they never prosecute.
yeah, and they should be trained to prosecute. They should
They
be trained, right? Or whatever it is, right? So here's the thing. I'm gonna defend your point and say this. Diddy seems like he was a dangerous guy, right? And what I do understand is when people say I was afraid to say something because he kills people. He killed. A lot of people think he killed Pot. A lot of people think he blew up Kid Cudi's car or whatever. A lot of people wonder why Heavy D and all these other people just suddenly are not here anymore, right? His ex girlfriend, all this stuff, right? I get that part, but I also think that just the same way you worked with a lot of kids and women who've been victimized, I've been around a lot of black men who've been falsely accused. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them. I've been falsely accused. You've seen me get falsely accused, not in that, not of something like that, but just accused of being a bad person. Somebody came up and asked me, "Hey, Dr. Boyce, give me $10,000," and I said, "No, I can't." And they're like, "Well, Dr. Boyce is a bad person. He's a horrible. He's a scammer. He's a." What are you talking about? I'm all these things because I didn't give you what you wanted. Some people get jacked
Okay.
up. There are numerous examples where someone sends a letter and says, if you don't give me money, I'm going to go and tell people that you are a bad person. I'm not saying this happened with Diddy. I'm saying that you can't tell me. I would bet my every nickel on my bank account that in addition to the legitimate victims that you talk about,
They have video of this.
right,
Thank goodness there's video.
right. So if you're on video, then yeah, then you can prove things. But if you're just a person with a story, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If all you have is a
Most people,
story and no
yeah,
proof, that's a problem because it doesn't meet the standard.
it's true. It is a problem and it doesn't meet the standard. That is the reason why I'm okay. We want to talk about numbers, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I have seen them. Most people who are survivors of abuse and things like that, they never go to the police.
Mm.
They do not press charges. They internalize it and think there's something wrong with them. And this is the reason why a small number of men, and I'm not just talking about black men, a small number of perpetrators, it's not just men, a small number of perpetrators are able to victimize so many people because the actual individuals who are on the receiving end of the abuse, they do not speak up. They do not go to the police because they're saying, you know what? I'm not going to go and press charges because I'm going to be scrutinized and I don't have proof. So I'm not going to say anything.
So
So
what do you
that
think the
this is
solution?
what
So
normally
what? Well, let me
happens.
let me ask you this thing, because here's what my theory is.
Yeah.
My theory is a lot of the reason that victims, legitimate victims,
Yeah.
are
They
afraid to
don't come
are afraid to
forward.
speak up, is because they've already been tainted, unfortunately, by the non-legitimate victims. And so people,
Yeah.
so when you get there, people are skeptical. They're like, wait, it's almost like when I meet some of my students in the Black Business School and I start teaching them stock options or something, and they say, I didn't trust you because there's so many scammers out here that promise that they can explain something and they really don't do a very good job, or they don't give me what I was promised, right? So I almost feel like holding the accuser to a standard of proof
They
is
do.
gonna it maintains the integrity because
Yeah, I'm not
I'm gonna
saying that
tell you
it's a bad thing. I'm not
right.
saying that it's a bad thing. I'm saying that this is what happens. I'm laying out the scenario because we're sitting here saying, how is it that he got away with it for such a long time? Well, he was using those videos to bribe people, first of all. He was having large amounts of cash to pay people off who were witnesses. He was doing whatever it took so that he can continue this network of sinisterism, whatever was going on. Clearly he had clients that these white parties. I don't know, it seemed like there was two parties going on in the Diddy party. There was like one party where people were having fun and they grabbed their coats and they left, and then it was the after party, and it seemed like all sorts of wild things was happening in those after parties.
By the way, everybody, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And Dr. Alicia is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, and I'm in finance. So I tend to pay attention to things from a financial standpoint. She's into, obviously, social issues and relationships. So if you'd like to learn more about Dr. Alicia and her work, you can visit coachingwithdralicia.com. The URL's on the screen. Also, later on today, I do free financial consciousness training. So if you'd like to join us for class for free, just text the word morning to 87948. It's called Money in the Morning. So you text morning to 87948, and I'll send you an invitation to join us in class at 10 a.m. Eastern. And it's 100% free for anybody that wants to get better at economics. So here's my thing, right? I think that with Diddy, first off, it's not this case to me is not just about sex. It's about him breaking the law, right? It's about him engaging in racketeering and all that stuff. And I'm gonna just tell you like this. Here's 2 points I want to make on this. Number one, a lot of us who observed and analyzed hip hop had a big problem with the culture from the beginning. Diddy is a symptom of a bigger problem in that industry. Snoop Dogg, do you know Snoop Dogg? I don't know if a lot of y'all know Snoop Dogg got sued by a woman who claimed sexual assault, and she told a very, very, very clear story about what basically happened, and she was drunk and some stuff happened or whatever. They just sort of brushed it under the rug because he was releasing a product. So there's some people who get fully protected from a lot of this, whereas if for some reason whatever Diddy has become the subject of people's attention, but there's kind of a broader umbrella on the whole industry. Like there's been conversations about okay, with Jay-Z and or just even guys sleeping with underage girls and stuff like that. Things that may not have raised too many eyebrows in the '90s, but are making people kind of look back now and say, what were y'all doing in the last 25 or 30 years? And I can tell you, as a person who's the same age as a lot of these guys that are getting accused, I saw this. I mean, in the 90s, I remember just thinking rappers seem to think they can get away with anything. They think and the white man has tricked us into wanting to engage in criminal behavior. And next thing you know, you end up in jail. And I was like, why would they fall for this? Why are they letting people think that you should like rap about murdering people? People who murder people go to prison. Or rap about using illegal drugs. That'll get you sent to jail. Or rap about doing crazy stuff to women. Or rap about just various forms of irresponsibility. I just never understood that. And I so in a way, like when I see the chickens coming home to roost for Diddy, none of this surprises me. This is what happens when you let these people make you think that you're above the law. And he ain't the only one who thinks that way. Do y'all know if you go back, there's a song that Snoop and Exhibit did. I listened to the song when I was teaching at Syracuse 20 years ago. In this song, there was the chorus was like, "Who wanna get involved with us?" Like, cause there's this whole mafioso mob boss mindset that a lot of rappers embrace, like the gangster gang mentality, whatever, which again opens you up to a RICO charge because you're talking about the syndicate. Diddy was talking about we ain't going nowhere. We're bad boys for life, right? So you're really talking about your criminal organization and all the stuff that you might do to maintain that. It actually even goes back to Suge Knight. Suge Knight ran a criminal enterprise that would have been very easy fodder for a RICO case. Like, right, the whole Death Row Records and this persona that they presented. If you look at that first album cover with Snoop, Dre, and was it Snoop, Dre, and Pac on it, and I think Suge would be in some of the pictures too. They were presenting themselves as a criminal enterprise. And this is not a surprise given the fact that a lot of hip hop was financed by drug money. So criminal enterprises are funding this industry, which then presents these images of black men running these criminal enterprises. So years later, yeah, they look at that indictment. Go look at that indictment. All the RICO terms are used: racketeering, enterprise, conspiracy. All that shit that's going to get you 800 years in prison. And so my thing is like, when are we gonna stop falling for the rope a dope, man?
What do you mean? Like, who are you talking to, Fallen?
Just the
Who
community,
fall? Yeah,
all of us, all of
yeah.
us. I mean, sure, Clive Davis and Diddy's mentors turned Diddy
Mm-hmm.
into the man that he is now, but the black community kind of did it too. We were holding this man up
Mm-hmm.
as a model citizen for our little boys to freaking emulate. He
Mm-hmm.
was the one telling black people who to vote for. He was the one recognized as the symbol of black accomplishment, economically speaking. No, don't go talk to somebody who has training in finance or somebody
Mm-hmm.
who built a business legitimately. Let's go talk to the rapper who's a billionaire because he's selling liquor to his own people. That's the thing that I think. So Diddy shouldn't just be indicted. We all should be indicted. That whole goddamn culture needs to be indicted. Because the last thing I'm gonna say on this, if this is gonna support your point, then I'm gonna let you go in because I know you got a lot to say. Is do you know how many women I know who tried to go work in the hip hop music industry in the early 2000s and the 90s, who said I could not stay in that industry because the way they treat women is appalling. So this been going on for a while. This ain't nothing new. And the only difference with Diddy is that Diddy liked the women and the men. because a lot of the entertainment industry is pretty gay as well. I'll let you talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very true. It's like the music really took a turn for the worst, and it just, you pay somebody enough money, everybody has a price. You pay somebody enough money, they will deliver whatever song you tell them to deliver. You know, if it's something positive, like hip hop started out, and we're there for the birth of hip hop. It was positive, and then there's just all the music was just the same note, and it started getting really old. There was never any variety in music, in the hip hop music. So yeah, that tells you that this was sinister, and I really hope that on the back end of it, the things D1 is doing and some of the other dissenting voices who are taking a critical eye on hip hop, hopefully those individuals, their music can be heard just as much as anyone else. It's like paying somebody to pour poison into our community. That's how I see it. Poisoning the mind of the youth. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when your role models are getting 100 years in prison, and little black boys are looking up to this, I think that where I get biased, where my
Uh-huh.
personal like issue pops up, is that I had to deal with this shit a lot
What do you mean you had
from
to
the
do?
perspective of being a young black male who wasn't down for the bullshit. Like when I'm the guy who's like, why would you look up to this rapper dude? Look at the way he's living his life. He's gonna die from a drug overdose by the age of 35. He doesn't love his own kids. He is doing things that are going to get him sent to prison. He wants to kill his own people. Every single thing you could do to destroy your life. He's talking about this, and you are looking at this guy as some sort of role model. I
Well,
had
not everybody. There was a lot of critical people that really looked at it like, I'm kind of off the boat here. I don't really like this. There were a lot of voices that were speaking out against what they were
I
seeing
think there were a
too.
lot of voices, but the
Yeah.
problem is that
Yeah, money.
money and power. When white folks put a black person on TV, we automatically look up to that person, especially if they're a Democrat. If they're a degenerate Democrat like Diddy is, the 1,000 bottles of baby oil. I'm sorry, you're a weirdo. When a
Wait, so
degenerate,
you are
yeah,
turning this into a political thing.
it's political
He-
because if Diddy was a Republican, they would tell us that we shouldn't like him anymore.
Wait, so are you saying that the powers that be are all Democrats and that there's a conspiracy with the Democrats and that Republicans are shiny and crispy and wonderful? Is
I'm
this
not.
what you're
I'm not
saying,
saying
Boyce?
there's.
Because I know
No, no,
you
no.
cannot say
I
that.
don't believe that at all. What I'm saying is
What are you
that I'm
saying?
not saying anything about what Republicans are or are not. What I'm saying is that if Diddy was a Republican, the black community would not be encouraged to love him as much as we do now, as much as we did up until the indictment, right? And what I mean by that is that if you look at Kamala Harris, for example, she loves to bring rappers into her campaign.
Okay.
Like crazy. And Trump does the same thing, right? We know this. But look at the difference in terms of how we respond to rappers when they become Democrats versus when they become Republicans. So Megan Thee Stallion's up there twerking for Kamala. That's great. That's wonderful. Diddy's talking about vote or die. Everybody's behind it. But then when Ice Cube comes along, and Ice Cube doesn't say I'm a Republican. Ice Cube literally
He
said,
never said he
right,
was anything.
Ice Cube literally said when he and I were on the phone many, many times, he would call me and just talk for 30, 45 minutes. And I would just listen. And he never he made it clear, I am not supporting any political party. I support the black community. What did we do to Cube? What did Kamala say about Cube?
Well, what did Saturday Night Live do to Ice Cube?
Yeah, they painted
They
him as a
tried to
Republican.
they tried to really twist it around and paint him in this way. And I think that, listen, we need to be apolitical too, boys, because I'm not saying that there's a lot of Republicans who do some really crazy stuff too. And I
Absolutely.
mean, so let's just not.
Oh,
Yeah.
if Republicans were getting 90% of the black vote, I would probably talk about them more. I talk
Hmm.
about the Democrats more than the Republicans for one simple reason. They get our votes. If I vote for you, you owe me something. If I don't vote for you, then you probably still, I mean, you still owe me, like I'm still a citizen, but you don't owe me as much as you
Well,
owe
they're not going to
the people
owe.
who put you in office.
I think what it is that, here's the thing: they're not going to owe you, Boyce, anything if you
Well,
vote for them.
when I say owe
The-
me, I mean my people.
Right.
Like if my community, like it's almost like if I go to work at a certain company and I work 80 hours that week. Y'all owe me money. They can't say, well, what about the company down the street? They didn't give you nothing. They didn't
Well,
pay.
did
They didn't, hold on. They paid you less than what we paid you. I'd be like, yeah, but I didn't work for them. We don't work for the Republicans. We work for the Democrats. So the Democrats should be the first ones in line for
yeah.
black people, the same way they want us to be in line to vote for their asses. I told somebody. They said,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, they were saying, you should make sure you know what? Check this out. So when and I were talking about what they were doing with the Democrats, you know what they told him? He called me and told me. He said they told me to wait till after the election before they address the issues that he brought up. So you know what I told people when they asked me about voting for Kamala? I said, I'll decide if I'm going to vote for her after the election.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So here's how I see politics. Just to add, I don't disagree with you. Really add to what you're saying. But politicians, they run on a platform. So they say, here's my issue, here's what I'm supporting. I'm supporting these issues in this way. This is what I see what's going on with America, right? And here are some of the things that I'm going to implement to make things better. You have the Republican platform and you have the Democrat platform, the two candidates running, right? And you just place your vote on whatever you believe your platform adheres to your values. And that's it. They're not going to really owe you anything. They really owe what they owe us is okay, this is what you said you were going to do. It's up to us to be able to assess if they can actually push it forward, what we're voting for. So we're voting for their platform and their issues. So, that's how I see it. I don't really look for a president to save me. I do not look for a president to come and really make significant impacts into my personal life. I don't see Republicans or Democrats really doing that. I don't put so much emphasis in one particular vote. My thing is, come election day, I'm going to vote and I'm not even going to turn my TV on. I'm going to probably watch a movie and just go to bed. Like, I'm not going to get into the whole hoopla, but that's my perspective on voting.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't put so much into
I
it.
don't disagree. I'm just saying that if
Yeah.
your house is on fire and the person that asks you to leave your burning house to go help them do something, you would expect them to help you put your house out of fire, put the fire out,
But
especially if they've got water.
that's not what they do. That's
No,
not their job. Like, don't look for a policeman to put your house
I
out
hear
if
what
it's
you're
burning.
saying, but
Look for a fireman to do it. You know
no,
what I mean?
no,
Like,
no.
those aren't.
Politicians are going and saving Israel. They're going and saving Ukraine. If they can go save Ukraine, they can help save the black community. The black
Well,
community is on fire. The black community has. You go to. They had the convention in Chicago. Dozens of people got shot that weekend in
yeah,
Chicago.
it's
Right.
terrible.
Like so, my positioning on that would basically be that if your number one constituency is in a state of emergency
Mm-hmm.
and you say, well, it's not our job to address that, then I would say, well, it's not their job to go vote for you. They need to be addressing their problem,
But yeah,
not voting for you.
people can do what they want to do, but honestly, I think it's wonderful to have student loans forgiven. I think that would be great. And anybody who's talking about pushing, I want student loans forgiven. Like, to me, that would help me. That actually would have an impact on
Did
me.
we get our student loans forgiven?
I know a lot of people who did
No, but did
personally.
did, did you? Did you? Because we could use some extra money.
I didn't apply. We didn't apply in time, but I know people who applied in time because
Mm.
there was a window where student loans were being forgiven. I actually talked to people who said, "Good grief, I got my student loans forgiven. I pushed it through quickly before the
Well,
courts got involved." So, like, student loan forgiveness, I know that that would be huge,
I think it would be. I mean,
for a
most
lot of
black
people.
wealth goes toward paying off student loans.
Yeah.
And also, it would be fair to make sure people understand that the reason you have a student loan crisis is because of a bill Joe Biden pushed back in
Yeah.
the early 2000s, where he made it illegal for you to declare bankruptcy on your student loans.
Hmm.
If that bill had not been pushed, then what you would have is you'd have millions of people declaring bankruptcy just to get the student loans off their credit, and they would literally be able to erase it all and move on with their lives
I
a few
think
years
that'd be
later.
great. And it was also Hillary Clinton pushed that too.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think she was part of it too.
yeah,
So.
yeah. But anyway, so just circling back on the Diddy thing, I think overall. When I see Diddy, I see significant mental health issues. I as a black
That's an understatement.
as a fellow black man, I think that there is a curse that can happen when you're given everything that that you ever wanted, and I think that that creates an insatiation, a lack of satiation, where your appetite grows and grows and grows, and that creates the beast inside of you. I've just seen it happen to so many men. I've seen, like, even I had a friend who could get any girl he wanted, and girls did whatever he told them to do because he was a good looking man. So what happened was he kind of got spoiled. He didn't work hard in relationships because he's like, oh, I can find a new chick in, tomorrow. He would have 5 or 6 girlfriends at a time. He also had an issue with drinking. He got into drinking in college and all that, and there was no standard ever set for him. There was no accountability ever set for him, and so eventually he became this degenerate drug addict with babies, mamas everywhere, STDs out the ass, and now he's in his 50s and he's a complete mess. And so I feel kind of like you got to be careful about getting everything you want. Sometimes the devil can bless you and really pour, so much onto you that it takes a higher and higher standard before you're able to actually feel the high of whatever it is that you want. So the same way you might have some guys who get excited because a pretty girl kisses them, you might have some guys who say, "No, I need to have 5 or 6 at once in order for me to feel good about this situation." So I almost think that this is a spiritual discussion and not just one that involves like criminality and politics. I think you got to look at the fact that Diddy is, in my view, a man whose spirit has eroded. It's become corrupt. It's become poison, very toxic.
Okay, yeah, it has become very toxic, and I think, um, I think, okay, let's talk about Sean. I'm calling him Sean. Let's just think about what he might be going through right now. I hope, is he still in custody? They didn't let him go, right?
He's in custody. Yeah.
He's in custody. I hope he's on one-on-one observation,
Hmm.
like continuous observation. To me, it seems like an almost like he's the black version of Epstein. This whole entire network, and they put him at he's the one person that they've named, this Epstein thing. And I think that, and we know how it ended with Epstein, right? You know
Hmm.
how it ended. So
Right.
I think that he needs to be observed, and they need to never turn those cameras off.
Mm-hmm.
Don't turn the cameras off, because Epstein, for some reason, they didn't have cameras on him. The cameras were turned off, and then we know what happened. So that is what I'm a little concerned about that may happen in this situation, because when you're somebody who knows too much and you got the names of a lot of people that you could point to, because so far no other name has been named,
Hmm.
has been identified, has been let loose. And we know that it's got to be coming, right? It's got to be coming down the pipeline. So I just worry about this whole thing about how people are just going to be preservation. There's going to be self-preservation. To me, Sean seems like the kind of person to say, if I'm going down, I'm bringing everybody down with me. Like, y'all was part of this. It's almost as if he's in witness protection instead of just being like the head honcho of this thing. It's almost like I need witness protection before I end up talking. That's what it sounds like to me. I can tell you everything, I can give it all up for you, but what is going to happen to ensure my safety? Because these are probably very powerful people that he knows about. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Or maybe he's just another dude who broke the law who's going to get 100 years in prison and
They can't just,
the
well,
life.
like I said, they can't just pin it on one person. They said it was over 300 witnesses,
Hmm.
and I think, again, when it comes to assault, when people are being assaulted and people are really being the receiving end of abuse, most of the time, and this is facts right here. Most of the time, those individuals who are survivors of abuse, they never press charges. So that means that whoever the perpetrators were, they can go around and just abuse a bunch of different people, and get away with it because people are ashamed and they don't want to come forward and they blame themselves. And that's the tragic thing.
I think that is tragic.
That happens quite a
I
bit.
do also believe that you can have a black or white conversation about situations if a person voluntarily put themselves into. I think that that's another part of the discussion that people are having. Smart people are having this. It's not just people that want to be mean or dumb or anything like that. It's like people are basically saying like, at where do you have a zero, all or nothing kind of approach to this, or do you understand that, like I heard Tiara said online the other day. She said, I've sat with R. Kelly and I talked to him for a long time, and never once did he say, "Let me pee on you." Right? And
Hmm.
and so she said, but in L.A. there are women that will say, "I'll let you do whatever you want to me, as long as you make me famous."
Okay,
And
consenting adults can do, I guess, what they
right,
want to do,
and
right?
that becomes the interesting part of it
Hmm.
to me is I like, because the consequences of being accused of something are so severe. I'd like to have clarity on exactly what happened. And that might mean asking questions, but that's not the same as victim blaming. Victim
Okay.
blaming is when you say, um,
What were you doing there?
you're right, you
What
got
were
right,
you there for?
right.
What
You
were you?
you
Hmm.
get assaulted, or somebody drugs you at a party and they say, well, what were you doing at the party? Why were you wearing that outfit? Right?
Hmm.
That to me would be clear victim blaming.
And that
But
happens a lot, though.
right, but when there's situations where you have people that are consenting to things,
Hmm.
and then they don't like what they consented to, or maybe they made a deal. Hey, like that lady. I remember that one lady who was in LA, an LA actress. She did a video where she said, I needed a new laptop, and a man promised that he would give me a laptop if I slept with him. She said, I'm really pissed because I slept with him and he didn't give me the laptop.
Oh, did she get that in writing?
Right,
She
right,
needs to take that to
right.
court.
So on one hand, yeah, right.
Judge Judy will help that one
Right.
out.
So on one hand, you definitely got played. You definitely got hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, led astray, all that, right? I get that. But then how much of a victim are you? Are you the same, as the person who was actually like how do we shape your victimhood? It
Well, I
sounds
mean,
like, because to me it sounds like you made a deal with the devil. You thought you were going to use him, but he ended up using you. I don't know how much sympathy I can have if you say I was a victim. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, uh, I don't know if that's necessarily against the law. I'm not a lawyer in that situation, but I'm certain she felt violated. I don't know
Right.
if it's illegal what happened, but I'm certain she felt violated. Like, dag, I thought we had a deal. What's
Right,
going on?
right. Yeah, yeah. You
You
made a
know,
deal with a
like,
man with that much
what
integrity.
is what's happening here? Like, so I mean,
Yeah, and that's what I think kind of happens in the entertainment
but
space,
that's
that people.
different. That's different from drugging and rape, like
Right. It's
raping and
absolutely,
beating.
absolutely,
And let's just
absolutely, absolutely. I'm agreeing with you. I'm 100%. No,
good Lord,
no,
boys.
I'm agreeing with you. But here's what I'm also saying though: there are thousands of these little backdoor, like, have sex with me and I'll give you this opportunity situations, where the person didn't deliver what you agreed on, and then the person goes out publicly and says I was a victim, and I don't think that's the same
A lot of
as
people,
assault.
yeah, a lot. It's not the same, but a lot of people, mo- most actual victims never say anything. They don't press charges. I'll just say that. That part I know. Those are facts right there. Most people who are victimized, and they'll get treatment. They'll do whatever they can to heal from it. But healing part of it, they have to heal knowing that their abuser is not in jail and is free to go. Like, that's an actual module that we go through with individuals who are survivors of these things, is
Mhm.
knowing that this happened to you and that the perpetrator is free and is living their life knowing that they have caused a whole entire uh, destruction in their path, right?
Right.
And so that's part of the healing process, is having that knowledge that somebody has gotten away with what they've done to you, but you still have to overcome this and incorporate that and still become a survivor and a whole person with that knowledge. So that's just what
Mhm.
happens. And that's a reality that you have to work with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you, right? And I think we're in agreement on,
Mm-hmm.
like, like, you don't blame victims. Victims should speak up.
But they
NBA.
don't.
Right, they don't, and they
Yes.
but they should,
And it's
go,
okay that
but
they
right,
don't.
and we should
Yeah.
encourage people to just know, like, if
Yeah.
something happens, to protect others, you should probably say something, right? So there's a piece of that accountability, dare I call it that. What I'm talking about also though is the fact that when you talked about things like assault, you suddenly had the Me Too movement where everybody and their mama was like, I was an actress on a set. I slept with the director. He violated me. That's just the same as if I was a victim of
Well,
assault. And no, and
that
those are
person can't go to jail for that.
right.
Like,
But they can't go to jail. Right, right. But what I'm
it's
saying
just
is,
someone
but
telling.
men were being destroyed. Like, men were traumatized watching other men who'd worked 30, 40 years to build a great reputation have that just ruined because somebody they slept with decided, I'm gonna just relabel the situation, right? And I think
Yeah, and
that's the
come
part.
forward out of the
Right, that's the
woodworks.
part that I
Yeah.
think was because I was always like, well, wait, I'm confused. Wait, so okay, so if you go up to a man, let's say you are, because a lot of women are attracted to powerful men. So if you go up to a powerful man and you say, if I'll sleep with you if you make me the star of your movie, there's nothing wrong with that. You can't get in trouble for that. But if he goes up to you, pay attention now, listen, and he says, if you sleep with me, I'll make you the star of this movie, then he will get labeled as a predator, but you wouldn't be labeled as a predator if you made the same indecent proposal, unsolicited. Now, the other thing
You'd be
too,
labeled a hoe,
well, you would be, but that's not the
and he
same
be
as,
labeled
but
as
that's not,
some creepy, horny guy.
yeah, well, no,
I mean, it is what it
no, 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 no,
is,
no, no,
right?
no. When men, but no, no, in the Hollywood stuff, men were going to jail for that. Men were losing their careers for that,
Going to
right?
jail for not being professional
Well,
on the job.
actually, I'll say this: there were a lot of situations that emerged where you didn't know if you didn't know who consented to what. But because the woman said that the man had a position of power and I didn't, people automatically assumed she was the victim. And I think that that is also disrespectful to the idea that women can be powerful too. Like we for some reason we live in a world where we constantly are talking about equality and we're talking about how women are powerful. Women can do this. Women can be president. But then when it comes to certain situations, we're like, no, no, no. She's the woman. He has the more power. She's clearly the victim. And I think that's not a thoughtful way
No,
to assess
okay.
very, very serious. It'd be one thing if people got a slap on the wrist for this stuff, but when you talk about ruining people's lives, I know in the Me Too movement, I didn't see a lot of women getting their whole careers destroyed. I saw a lot of men go through that.
Yeah,
And
it is because a lot of men are, unfortunately, they are the person who are can have some predatory behavior. The individuals who are predators in that way, sexual predators. I mean, there's some growing numbers of women also being predators. It's just that very rarely do people come forward. There are a lot of women. I know I worked with the domestic violence program, and I know that we had a lot of women who were physically abusing and psychologically and financially abusing women in a bunch of different ways. So let's just say abuse is bad. It's wrong, right? It's illegal to abuse somebody in a lot of cases. But the thing is that it was happening that men who actually did have positions of power, which means they were the decision makers, they were in a position of power to say, I'm going to put you on and I'm not going to put you on. And I'm going to make sure that your career is successful and I'll make sure that your career is not successful. Like that is a position of power. So let's just say positions of power is a real thing, right? And when you
mm,
take that position, it's an honor to be in a position for me to be in a very powerful position, but to take that position and abuse it by saying, if you don't do these unethical, ratchet things like I say that you're going to do, I'm going to all of a sudden shut off the water flow to you. To me, I don't know. Again, I don't know the legality of stuff like that. It's not professional. It is actually abusing your power. Now, I'm not talking about innocent men. I'm talking about real men who were doing these things. Like, I was
so,
happy on some level that that sort of thing was exposed
mhm.
because it happens, but again, hats off to the people who were innocent. I don't want innocent people going down, but for a long time, a lot of perpetrators and individuals who were doing really unprofessional, sinister things like this in the business, they were exposed. Who were actually the what's his name?
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. Like, come on. It was about time, that sort of thing.
Did he actually get accused of raping someone, or did he get accused of sleeping with actresses? Like, what did he? What specifically?
It wasn't
I
just
don't
sleeping
know.
with
I don't
actresses.
know
Did
what.
you not? There's been
Tell me.
like,
Tell me.
there's been a lot of documentaries. There's a documentaries done
No,
on.
no, but don't tell me the documentary. Tell me what he. I'm not saying Weinstein's a good guy. He seemed like Diddy, where he was a degenerate, right? Where his addiction caused him to just do weird things when it came to sex. And I'm trying to. I would just like to understand it. Like, what exactly specifically was he doing that was in like breaking the law? I'm sure it has to be. There has to be something because he went to prison, right?
Well, I mean, you even spoke about some of the sexual assaults that he was doing with women because you said that Damon Dash spoke up
Hmm.
because he knew about it and
Well,
he spoke up about
Well,
it.
let me be specific though. Let
Um,
me be specific about this.
Sexual
Right,
assault.
but let me be specific about what happened with Dame. So Dame gets credit for being the canary in the mine on Harvey Weinstein. When I reached out to DJ Vlad back when I used to talk to Vlad, I don't really talk to him anymore. And I said, "Hey, Dame Dash and I are working on this project together. I just wanted you to know maybe this is something we could partner with you guys on." And he calls me, Vlad calls me, and he tells me, "Hey, I have to tell you about Damon Dash." And I said, "Really? What do you want to tell me?" He said, "Damon Dash, he's kind of a loose cannon. He went off on Harvey Weinstein in public." And I said, "Who's Harvey Weinstein?" He said, "He's a very powerful man in Hollywood." And at this time, there was no accusations against Weinstein. So this is back when he was friends with Oprah, Michelle Obama, and all these other people, right? And and I said, "Wow, I didn't know that." So he went off on him. He said, "Yeah, he cussed him out in a restaurant in front of everybody." And I said, "Man, that's a lot. Whoa!" And I didn't know anything of it because I didn't know who Weinstein was, and I was just being introduced to all this. So later on, Dame individually, without knowing I even talked to Vlad, Dame tells me what happened with Weinstein. He says, yeah, he says there's this nasty ass Hollywood director, and he would go back in the kitchen with actresses, and he would masturbate, and on top of the actresses in the kitchen. And he said I cussed him. He said, "Man, I had to cuss this dude out because I was like, that's nasty as hell. You doing this in the kitchen in a restaurant? People gotta eat here. This is nasty, right?" And so that was and literally, I kid you not, it was weird that he told me that story because I didn't even tell him I talked to Vlad. I didn't tell him Vlad's side of the story. So I just really just kind of pocketed the story and didn't think much of it. And then I want to say a few months later, that was when all the Weinstein allegations started coming out. So Dame, to his credit, was one of the first people to notice his behavior and speak up on it before it became popular. Before that, Oprah was giving him kudos, Obamas were giving him kudos, Hillary Clinton was giving him kudos. All these people loved this man at that time. So they were like, how dare you speak out against a guy who is loved by so many people? So here's the thing though. Here's another point I want to make on that though. What Weinstein did with those actresses was nasty as hell. But if the actress is like, hey, I'll let you do this to me. I mean, that I'm sure he did something criminal because he's in jail, right? That to me is not something to me I would think you would send someone to jail for. If
Yeah,
you freaky and y'all decide y'all want to go in the back in the kitchen and do something nasty, sure, that's gross. I mean, I would
that's consent, right? It's like, hey, we about
right,
to do all this stuff. But if he's saying, okay, meet me in my office, 12 o'clock. I'm going to go over, we're going to put you in this role. Okay, you're excited. You go and you meet somebody in their office, and you're like, okay, wait, you can put that thing away. I'm not trying to do this.
right,
And
right.
they're just like, no. And they're sitting there doing some very they're like, hold on, wait a minute. This is a professional thing. I don't want this. And then there have been so many women who have come forward and said, yeah, he sexually assaulted me. He groped my body. He's pulling his thing out and masturbating all over. Ugh. And I was like, no. And I walked away feeling violated. You do that to a bunch of women, on a constant basis. I mean, pretty soon this stuff will come back and get you.
Yeah.
And it's if you feel like you're the lone voice Or if you see another person cast in that role, you're sitting there looking at them like, dang, they just took it, didn't they? They just, accepted. It was almost like the casting couch. And I'm again, I'm very happy that sort of thing got exposed, because that's not how it should be. People shouldn't be violated like that just to do a movie role.
No, I do
I don't
agree.
like
I do
that.
agree with that. I do agree with that. And I don't think anybody can defend that kind of behavior. I think that what makes it complex is that these rules we set up within organizations are not always they're sometimes in contrast to human nature. Like, meaning that I've also seen scenarios where there was a woman who was like, "Hey, I'd like to be intimate with you because I like powerful men and wealthy men and men who can do things for me." So then there becomes this expectation that because I'm sleeping with you, you're gonna pick me ahead of the crowd. No differently from if a woman is making the selection and a man is her husband, she's gonna prefer her husband over, some random man that she doesn't know. And I think that that's the part where we started to criminalize men having power and did not assess the power that women have to shape the situations that
Yeah.
occur between men and women. I
Yeah.
think I think women have a lot of power. That's my point. And when you're only persecuting men, mostly 99% of the people being persecuted are men, and we're not holding women accountable, that's a problem, because what then happens is you have what's happening on the internet, where now you've got millions and millions of men who are saying it's time for women to be accountable for what they do too, because there's a lot of hurt, devastated men. Like if a man loses his child because of an abortion, or a man can't be with his family because his wife divorced him because she got bored, like
Oh, wait, 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 wait. Hold on.
that creates a
Wives do not divorce their husband because they get
or they
bored,
get divorced because
baby.
they don't feel satisfied in the relationship, or they feel that
Well,
that
whatever it
whatever
is,
it is, right? But
we
listen,
can't
listen, I get it. Just
demonize
right, just like
anybody for their
right.
decisions now.
It's because maybe she has needs and she's making a choice based on her needs. Men have needs, so these men are making choices based on their needs,
Yeah, so
and
those are the consequences for a lot of your choices. And, my heart goes out to these
a
men.
lot of men. I'm going to interrupt you because I really think that one of the challenges is that when men talk about this stuff, like when, the reason a lot of men followed Kevin Samuels was not because something was wrong with them. It's because they were hurting and nobody listens to them. A lot of women don't listen. They just talk over you and they keep on telling you why their plight is worse than what men are going through. And I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, it's definitely not a game like my pain is worse than your pain. I mean, just pain in general is just should be acknowledged and looked at. I don't like when the pain goes unnoticed and it turns into I hate women, and it turns into I hate all men. And that's where I think those Kevin Samuels ish, because he's not here now, he's passed on, right?
Well,
But
he
his
did die alone. Go ahead. Sorry.
okay.
Don't laugh. That's
I
okay.
think that that is where it kind of turns into, it turns into this darkness that you talked about with Sean. This this darkness, it turns into this kind of evil thing inside of you,
Mm.
where you walk around the world and you hate all women, and you just hate, I'm gonna go to Venezuela and get somebody or whatever. You feel like women, and you just start shaking your fist in the air and you blaming the world for the fact that you're hurt and no one saw it. I think we need to like acknowledge it and have you really push through that pain and understand that it's not a black and white. When you start getting into black and white thinking, that's when I know it's trauma, right? It's not all women. It's not even all you. It's just the circumstances and the pain that you went through, of course, that needs to be acknowledged and understood, and not turned into this seed of hatred toward black women, that or women having this hatred toward black men. I don't really I can't, I'm off the bus with that.
Yeah, I think that and I think we've kind of moved past like talking about Diddy. So, but
We were talking about hatred
I
toward women, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's
I think that that's the interesting thing. I think that um there's hatred, and then sometimes there's just accountability. And or it's like it's almost like the victim blaming conversation. There is victim blaming where you literally are blaming the victim, like it is your fault you had this thing happen to you, versus simply holding someone accountable and saying, hey, I'd like to know what really was going on here. Like, what was why were you there? Why did you choose to be with that man? Why did you choose,
Yeah, well, when people come forward and they say, this person did this to me, part of that process is, okay, let's sit down and tell your story. Tell what happened. Write it up in a police report. If you so choose to do so. Most people don't do that though. But when they do, yeah, they
and
understand that
whose
when they
fault is
go
that?
into it.
Who's accountable
Well,
for
it's
the
it's
fact that
very
people won't?
difficult to prove. Like, we're alone in a room and something happens to me, and it's a very difficult thing to prove. There was no witnesses, there
Hmm.
was no evidence, there was just circumstantial thing. He says one thing, she says another thing. Who do you believe? That's why a lot of these cases just get thrown out because there's not enough evidence. Remember, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
So that's something that's extremely difficult to prove. And a lot of time people don't come forward, and when people do come forward, they just drop the charges because there's just not enough evidence.
Okay, so
you know
my question will be, what's the solution then?
well, sometimes the solution can't be done in court.
Right.
Part of the issue is that people don't get locked up that need to,
Hmm.
and you just don't handle it that way. Sometimes the court system is not set up to really know what really happened between two people alone in a room. That's why when there's recordings, if you have a recording or if you have a text message, if you have anything that you can show as evidence, you have to have evidence towards your accuser.
Hmm.
It just can't be your word against his.
Hmm.
And it just there really is no solution to it. I mean, if you want to look at the grand scheme of things in terms of solution, is that people have so much unhealed trauma. That's why you have sex addictions, all the types of addictions, sex addiction, drug addiction, all of these addiction to money and fame and shopping and all of that stuff. Underneath a lot of it is just really hurt individuals.
Well, I think my solution is, um, I think we have to back it up and really get away from, like, I think when we decided that patriarchy was a bad word, but matriarchy for whatever reason is not a bad word, that was a downfall in our society, in the sense that, you know protecting women is very important. And part of patriarchy, the good part of it, is that there was a certain amount of authority men could have in shaping some of the choices of women. And when we decided that women should be able to just do whatever they want without any consequences, you
Wait,
know,
who
or
decided that?
when society got to the point where remember they used to use terms like slut shaming and stuff like that, and then the men were like, well, that's not healthy for you, that's not safe for you. You kind of just doing whatever you want, whenever you want, dating whoever you want. Like, remember, there was a time, I'm not saying we have
What's
to.
wrong with dating
I'm not.
whoever you
Hold
want?
on.
I
Listen, listen,
don't get.
listen. Wait, give me. Let me finish.
Yeah.
If you go back 50, 60 years, the father had a strong role in the family. It's much stronger than today. The fathers were necessary. They were the protectors. You had to get the approval of a father before you could marry the daughter. Um, and some people think that that's bad and it's oppressive, and maybe sometimes it was. But men can spot degenerate, predatory men much more effectively than a lot of women can. Like R. Kelly, I guarantee you that very few of R. Kelly's victims lived in a household with a strong father. Now, you might have a weak father up in there, but a strong father, like my father, a police officer, Vietnam veteran, who could see
So
right.
making it
No,
to you.
listen,
Okay.
listen. My dad was the type. We never had that problem in our house. My sister didn't have no predator. Wasn't no weak ass predatory man coming up in the house recruiting my sister. R. Kelly. You see, what women won't acknowledge, because people are not all women, smart women do, but they won't acknowledge that the power of men. Men have power just like women got power. We got girl power, black girl magic, and all that. A strong man has a certain amount of power too. A strong man can spot a weak ass degenerate man in a second. You can pick these things up through eye contact, just watching his behavior, watching how he moves. You can spot that. And so when a man steps up as a strong man in your life and tries to advise you and say, use his wisdom to say, hey, that's not a man for you. And you say, I want to do what I want. Don't you tell me what to do. I'm a woman. I'm an independent woman. I don't need me. I don't need no man. Whatever nonsense people want to say. And then you're like, and then he steps back and says, okay, well, go ahead and do what you're going to do. Then next thing you know, you show up, you pregnant by this, by this sack of shit man. He done did all kinds of stuff to you. And you up here saying black men are the reason that this is happening to you. Black men didn't do nothing. Good men didn't do that to you. It was the degenerates who did it to you. And most strong men I know can spot a weak, degenerate man in a second. Me and my dad, I'm telling you, me, my dad, and my brother, we can look at a man and be like, "Oh no, you don't want to wrap up with that guy." And then but women don't. Some women don't want to listen,
Well,
and
here's the thing. I'm
then
not
they get preyed upon by the shitty men. Just like it's no different. I mean, women can do the same thing. Think about it. Women, your mama. Tell me if y'all know what I'm talking about.
okay, but
A,
you're
a
going
good.
on to a
Well,
different point.
but no,
And
let me just make the point
okay.
to make it gender, not make it gender neutral, so maybe you'll feel better about it.
Mhm.
Think about how smart your mama can be when if her son brings home a hoochie where he knows she can tell, okay, you've been mesmerized by whatever good stuff she's giving you in the bedroom, but you don't really see that this hoochie is not a quality woman. This is not a woman that's going to make your life better. She's going to cause problems for you. But the son's all in love because he done got some of the good stuff, and he's all caught up in this lady that's not good for him. His mother or his grandmother, in many cases, or his sister can see things he cannot see. And if he's a wise man, he will listen to the women in his life when they say, "Hey, don't mess with that girl." But so men are supposed to do it. We're supposed to listen to our mothers and grandmothers and all that. What you lost as a community is y'all stop listening to the men.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
all this. I gotta go to the bathroom.
wait. No, we had to talk about this.
I
The
gotta go.
thing.
Okay, keep talking.
Well, no, I wanted to talk to an actual
Talk
person.
to me.
What, boys?
Talk to them. Talk to them.
Okay, I can't talk to people because I can't see them. Here's the thing is, why did the woman not listen? Why did the little girl not listen to her dad? Why did the little boy not listen to his mother? The reason for that is because what was happening in their connection. Like you can't just be an absent father emotionally in that house and be totally disconnected with everybody in that house and then expect them when big major decisions need to be made, you can't expect them to obviously all of a sudden listen to that particular person. So for me, if you are a strong father, if you really are a strong father and your child doesn't listen to you, you need to stop and think, what did I do? How, in terms of my daily interaction with this person, did I lose connection with them so that they went off and chose this particular person that wasn't good for them? So that's more of the question that I feel like we need to have. We need to have a conversation about what happened between the relationship between that father and that child, that she went and chose made a decision that was against the values of that family. What happened in that personal connection between those two? So
Right.
that's what I'm saying, that
And
it's an interpersonal connection. Like
yeah.
you don't have something went awry in your relationship with that
Mhm.
person where that person went off and found this degenerate of a
I
person.
completely agree with
Yeah,
you on that.
that's what I'm saying.
I completely agree, and I'm not speaking up for the weak ass fathers. I'm speaking up for the real men. And if you are a real man, shout yourself out because we got solid men in the community, and the solid men get ignored because so many women, and it ain't all women, but so many women look up to losers like Diddy. They look up to this weak ass son of a bitch, and it's
Wait,
because don't listen. Hold on, I got to get this out, baby. You got to let me talk. Um, there's so many quality men who are defined as boring and not attractive because they don't have the money that this some of these degenerates have. They don't have the fame. They didn't make the rap album. And I know this, and this is personal for me because I went through that. I was not a swaggy, flashy Negro like that. I was a hardworking graduate student who wanted to be a good person. And I cannot tell you how many times that you run into, and a lot of men, I hope men will back me up on this. You run into women that chase the. You run into the Sierra chasing the future when she should have been chasing the Russell Wilson from the beginning.
Yeah.
But listen, listen. What men are
Jesus.
talking about, and people need to hear this is a lot. There are a million and one Sierras who will run off because they are so intrigued by the Russell Wilsons, or intrigued by the futures, intrigued by the Diddy types. Go get pregnant, catch an STD from this guy, have 2 or 3 kids with him, and then be like, black men ain't nothing. Black men need to protect black women. And at the end of the day, what a lot of intelligent black men are saying is they're saying we were there to protect you from the beginning. I was the guy who was in love with you when we were 21 years old, but you wanted to chase the flashy Negro.
Okay,
And one of the things I give you credit for is the fact.
Jesus.
No, listen.
Okay.
I give you credit for the fact that I saw when we were friends back in the day, and I didn't. And to make things clear for people, people think that you didn't want to date me. Actually, I was the one who actually was in another relationship. I chose not to pursue you at that time. But I remember I didn't notice until I got older, but I noticed over time how there were the flashy guys and the athletes and all this other stuff that were coming after you, and you were more interested in the smart guys. And I think that makes a smart woman, but also to sort of defend the women who make the bad choices. A lot of times, if your father wasn't shit, sometimes you're gonna chase guys that ain't shit. So it's an intergenerational problem. I just think overall, when I hear, I'm gonna tell you the truth. There's a lot of men when they hear about women getting abused or mistreated by a guy like a Diddy, the guys look and they say, "Well, why would you choose men like that? Why are you even around guys?" Oh, well, because he's got money and he's flashy, he's on TV, and you think that that's what makes a quality man, and that's not what makes a man quality. Here, I'll let you finish up here.
What are you about to do? Well, let's just end because what time is it? We gotta get
Yeah.
going.
All right.
Yeah, let's get going.
All
I
right.
have a lot to say about that, but
How about this?
we're done with the
You
conversation.
need to go live by yourself and
I don't want to go live by myself.
give the
I
Alicia
have to
perspective.
talk to a
Because y'all
person.
know me, I'm gonna go live at some point, and I'm gonna give y'all the whole hour
But
of
I
my
want you
point.
to I want you to be able to understand the psychology of it,
Hmm.
to know that I don't know. I think it's important for women to get, for girls, for female adult to get guidance from their fathers. I think it's important to get guidance from them. And if the daughter is rejecting the father's guidance, it points to a disconnect between their relationship. That's what I'm saying.
I
So
think
I'll leave it
I
there.
think that it
I'll
could.
leave it
I
there.
think that it could. I think that it could. It for sure, but then sometimes society plays a role in this too.
It's a
When
tree.
the whole world is telling you, girl, don't listen to these men, or girl, do what you want to do, or girl, don't let them control you. Even if the father is trying his best to be a good man and is there for her in every way, he may still not be able to get her attention the way he deserves it. There's just a
The
there,
child is in your care,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, but when they decided that the word patriarchy was a bad word, even though it's not, that's part of what caused the issue. Like, oh, you're part of the patriarchy. But girls have rebelled against their fathers since the beginning of time. The difference was that it was not encouraged by society. But now it's like
I
society.
disagree
I
with
think you
that.
have society. I do. I think that men. I think a lot of these bad choices, these bad situations that happen with degenerate men, could be prevented if women listen to men a little bit more. Because I'm telling you, the solid men, the solid brothers I know, and I know a lot of solid brothers. When we went to Egypt, you saw how many solid black men followed us and went to Egypt with us. Solid men can pick up on these weak ass, punk ass, degenerate, screwed up men in a second. These men are the same ones on the internet sometimes that get mad at guys like me because I'm like, stop this stuff. Stop imitating these rappers. They're losers. They're on their way to prison. They're addicted to drugs. They have sex addictions. They ain't building no wealth. They can't halfway read a damn book. This is not what a black man's supposed to be. So that's my 2 cents. Anyway, guys, we're about to get out of here. Hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe, and you can say goodbye, Alicia, before you.
Let's just end it. We can I'm more of a dialogue person. I can't just like stare. It's hard for me to just run on and on. I want to have a dialogue. So let's pick this dialogue up. I gotta start my day.
All right.
later. Okay.
All right, everybody. We're out of here. Have a good day, everybody. And Dr. Alicia's website is coachingwithdralicia.com if you want to go check out what she's got going on. Also, if you want some tips to be sent to you, relationship stuff, she is a relationship therapist. Just text the word love to 87948. Text love to 87948, and she can send you some stuff on a regular basis. I'm about to actually start our Money in the Morning financial consciousness training. So if you want to be more financially aware, financially conscious, and understand how economics works, we talk about money every morning. It's a free class. So text the word morning to the number 87948. I'll send you guys a text in probably about 30 minutes to let you guys know that we're about to start class if you're listening live. And also, this podcast is on Spotify. So look up my name, Boyce Watkins, on Spotify, and you can find us there as well. So have a good day, everybody. Thank you guys for listening to us. As you can see, we having a real heated discussion up in here, and so, hopefully it shows you don't have to agree on everything in order to maintain a healthy relationship. And I give my wife tremendous credit for introducing me to tools and techniques to help you understand each other, even when you're not always on the same page. Because as y'all can tell, we ain't pretending. We really do disagree on some of this stuff. So y'all have a good day, everybody. God bless you. See you soon. Peace.